Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, still got to finish up the council.
Well, I got to do that.
Okay, thanks for coming. Thank you for coming.
I don't blame you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Doing well.
Richard, thanks. Thanks for
I'm
coming.
not that uncomfortable. I've heard it come.
Thanks, Kay. Thanks.
We appreciate you guys coming. Oh, no, it's very, very good input.
We don't have to.
We gotta do it.
We've chosen.
People need to feel.
We don't have to. We've chosen
Okay.
to.
All right, let's go ahead and get the council meeting back together.
Thank you.
Don't do that, Richard.
I got to go see. How's he doing now? He's in the hospital.
Peter, just start talking.
I'll give you a call tomorrow or talk to Kate.
Yeah, I think
we're
talked to her.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
When my ears went dead.
Okay. All
I
right.
can only get her out of one.
I'll get with you tomorrow. Okay.
You
Yeah.
take care.
All right. Thanks
Thanks,
for coming.
Hi.
Thank you.
See you, Richard.
So blast through a few things here.
Yep.
Okay.
Highlights.
I was going to take a walk down memory lane real quick on something that I brought up at the community networking meeting, so I'll make it real quick. Over the past, from 2010 to 2013, we passed 5 ordinances, either establishing a moratorium or prohibiting the sale of marijuana in our community. In 2012, we had a vote, community-wide vote, and by majority, they chose to prohibit the sale of marijuana. There has been some discussion about lifting a moratorium and a prohibition. If that discussion continues, if the council changes, if things move along in a direction that becomes something we want to look at, we will have to have another election to do that. And that would probably happen at the earliest time, and at the earliest available election period would be in November of this year. So just something to put on the radar in case there's some interest in pursuing that.
So do you have to get a certain amount of votes in order to get that pushed through? I mean, is there a petition that goes around that you have to get so many votes in order to get that on the ballot, or how does that work?
I'm sure.
The council could put it on the ballot by council resolution, and then it's just a majority vote of the voters.
What if the council decides not to, and there's, how does that work? I don't know.
Can do a petition.
The
No,
citizens can.
there can be a citizen petition that would force you to put it on the ballot. I admit, I don't even know the numbers. I'd have to look.
Off the top of my head, I don't know either, but
Okay.
they have to do a petition, and there's a number of days before an election that it has to be turned in and
Right.
reviewed. And
Okay.
It would be difficult for that to happen by April, but
they
realistic
couldn't
for
get it
November.
done now, but for the coordinated election.
Right.
Tracy?
Even if we go that direction, it needs to be a long process, thought out, well done,
If a citizen brings a petition, they are
Yeah,
forcing.
and that's what I'm saying for us.
Yeah,
I think
the
that's,
council
if
too.
we're going to do it, that needs to be a long,
Right.
What is it? Is it the legalizer to grow? Or
to lift the moratorium on either growing
and
or
selling.
selling or something like that, if that's the direction. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a question to Vinny on that? And this is just what is your position on how a marijuana, just for maybe all of us to understand your position, because you're the one that we're going to expect to enforce the laws. What is your position on legalizing marijuana in this community? Is it going to have a negative impact? I mean, I know that's the normal response probably from law enforcement, that it would be negative, but I mean, is it really that big of a problem, marijuana smokers, or is it, I mean?
And I still believe that, we as society will not see the effects of this for like the next 10 years, and that's where I think as society, we will see what marijuana does to these people. That's how long it's going to take in their system, then you will see what happens to individuals. Just like the meth. Meth works really quickly. You lose your teeth, you're grinding, everything. You see relatively quickly. Marijuana, it takes a little bit longer. But it's the recreational drug that starts everything else. That's the issue. That's the problem. You know, everybody that smokes marijuana it doesn't feel good, so then you want to do the heroin, then you want to do the meth, and you want to do the cocaine, and it just leads to worse things.
Well, I guess the point that I'm trying to make is from a legal and an enforcement standpoint, if, you know, the focus on marijuana, because I think most people, especially in this state and other states now, look at marijuana use as no different than alcohol use. You know, if you're an adult, you can make that choice.
DUID drivers are just driving under the influence of marijuana is a big deal too.
Right.
And we've actually, the training, since the legalization of that in the state of Colorado, more training has become available that the officers go to, and then we have become more proficient in detecting those individuals because less the odor of alcohol, and that's why we have a drug recognition expert on board that are called out to look at these signs and symptoms of these individuals and say, this guy's under the influence of meth because of this, 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 and this, or he's under the influence of marijuana because of this, 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 and this, because he's had the extensive training and can pinpoint that officer and then guide that officer into making an arrest that will hold up in court, because it's more based on all the factual information. And so, yeah, it's still people that we have, I believe, marijuana goggles that we took to high school during Red Ribbon Week that impair you just like it does with the alcohol. And the kids, you know, like I said, they were laughing about it. They were running over, telling them, I killed the person. And yeah, that was the time when, like the officer said, this one's the time to laugh about it and have a good time. But it's also very serious. And, you know, the DUID drivers are just as bad as the DUI drivers, the alcohol. And it's getting to be more because people are accepting it more.
And it's legal in the state.
Well, and, you know, we have a lot of kids are contacting the parking lot of the high school for hotboxing. The car's running, they're outside, because they can't smoke in the dorms because they're going to get busted by the RAs. They go out to their vehicles, and I mean, their car is literally engulfed in smoke. You roll down the window, and it's Cheech and Chong. It just comes out. I mean, and that's what the officers are getting. Yeah, the person is under the influence of marijuana, and they're in control of the car. That's DUID.
Well, I understand about the car, but I'm just looking at the focus on the resources that you have on finding individuals with marijuana. You know, being that it's kind of not looked at any different than alcohol.
I mean, most
nowadays.
people do have the medical marijuana cards. They have the caregiver cards. You have to have more. You got to have really good reasons, because the state's not going to give that information up. So you actually have to have a big or a good thorough investigation to prove that these people do or don't have marijuana cards. Because it's, you know, and if you're a caregiver over a certain amount, then that is supplied to the state. But it's still, you know, it's the norm of what I think the council as a whole does not want to see in our community.
Yeah, I guess that was my whole purpose. Is this going to, in your opinion, create a bigger problem for our community?
Yes, it will.
Okay, so that's the point I was trying to make. That as a council, you know,
Yes, it will be a
that's the
bigger
consideration we need to take.
Okay, Peter?
Okay. Met with the county last week to discuss how we would go forward cooperating with the combination of the building department. The county is interested in pursuing that. They'd like to see potentially that happen on both ends of the county, where we adopt the same building codes, maybe the same fee schedule, potentially follow a model that was set up in Craig and Moffett County, and we would continue to keep the subdivision and zoning issues separate, of course, and that would still be up to each entity how they handle that piece of it. So they want to continue those discussions in February, and we look forward to doing that. I think that's a first real good opportunity for us to come together and do something to find some nominal savings on a program, and then we can look at some other programs going forward. So RDA meeting last week, we talked about a number of things. The transition of the authority to the governing body was not something that really was pursued in the last meeting. I got the impression that that's not something we really want to look at this point in time, or at least until after the election. We did revisit the co-op grocery store. We'll probably invite some subject matter experts during the second quarter and have them present to the RDA and start discussing that. There seems to be some interest there. We provided an update on the call center recruitment. Better City is pursuing the company Journey Front. They're analyzing the responses from the employee survey. They're comparing that to their global database to see what skill sets we have here, and then they'll have a better idea how to pursue various call centers and align our skill set with the particular call centers. They're also strategically targeting states that have kind of a stressful business environment, high taxes, that kind of thing, where call centers might not make as much sense there, make more sense here. Update on avionics specialists. We looked at the MROs. They're looking at purchasing some avionic testing stations for the college. That means they'd probably get the college discount. And of course, they would want to provide that for a fee. But they're also looking at some other avionics equipment to help deal with, avionics repairs and installations. Andy probably knows more about this than anybody sitting here, but putting glass in a plane from dials and that sort of thing is an area that I don't think our students in the MRO program or the flight maintenance program get a lot of instruction up here at the college right now. And in fact, I don't think they get that in many places. So this could be a nice niche opportunity for the students at the college to start picking up this side of it. The next day, we had meetings with another MRO candidate, F&D International, out of Boulder, and they met. We had quite a group in the room. Andy, did you want to update that at all?
I think it was more kind of given Todd. I don't think that he really had a game plan yet, but my thought on it was, we had all the folks in there to tell them what we're looking for. He is going to go back and see if he can come up with something that might fit in this community. And just like anybody that's wanting to come into the community, they're wanting everybody have a stake, in it. So it's not all just him coming in and building a business here without any risk taken by the town, the community, or whatever it may be.
Was there any major concerns that came out of that meeting?
Was there any major concerns?
Yeah, from his perspective.
Oh, I haven't talked to him afterwards.
Well, I mean during the meeting, I guess, but yeah, or after, that's fine.
I didn't think that there was. Did you, Peter?
What was the question?
Did you think there was any major concerns or anything like that he had? Like, did you get that feeling?
No, I think risk, the financial risk, and trying to determine what his business plan
What the
is going
niche
to
would
be,
Okay.
and how much incentive that he'll receive coming in. He realizes he's got to take some risk. I mean, he's looking at a pretty sound business opportunity if the risk is shared, and the college is involved, and they are. I mean, they're pretty tied into this whole thing. So that, I mean, I think long term that looks promising at some level. I'm not sure where we're going to end up.
I think it sounds promising because we've gone through this whole deal with the RDA, RDC, that somebody is actually thinking about coming into Rangeley, Colorado, and spending their money in order to get here, instead of us having to pull somebody in to bring a business, or us finance somebody's business to bring here, like the grocery store, to get that guy in there, whoever it may be. This guy's talking about spending his own money to bring a business here.
We also had some brief conversations about these two MROs actually coming together, sharing the private, if there's a public-private partnership, maybe the two of them together could find a way to offer these niche services like wrapping planes and avionics, doing it under the same roof and, limiting their risk and ours. So, but, and they seem to have some interest in that. Anyway, so, we also talked about the URA. We need to update the plan. We need to look at updating the plan. So we're going to be pursuing the direction on that, and whether that's through Dan or Paul Benedito or the combination in that regard. Yeah. So we'll be looking into that here before the next meeting. Moving on, we have 7 contractors interested in the manhole project. We've had some pre-bid here on location. We expect at least 5 of those to place bids, and the bids will be on a unit basis per manhole. We're also we're bidding the materials internally, and we'll purchase that in advance of the project, so there won't be any markup on the materials, and we'll look for then a general contractor to come in and place those. If their bid comes over what's available in the grant, it will be down to about the last $200,000 in the grant. If they can't do all 8 of the manholes, we'll look at the per unit and we'll prioritize the manholes and see which ones we can get done this year. But it's something we keep putting off year after year. We've got to get started on some collection system improvements. We're also closing the town hall renovation project this month, so we're done with that one. We have a couple of straggling small invoices to come in. The project will close at about $890,000. The initial budget on the project was $1.2 million. I think that's about it, unless you have some questions or things you'd like to have me look into.
Just really quickly, the last meeting I asked you about the bid for the Tanglewood stuff, and you emailed me that answer on the time frame.
Right.
So this is going to be my request, and since we have the attorney here, I just put it this way: if we can, I would like to see us, when we do a bid, we ask for a time frame on that, so we can make the best decision possible on whether it is cheaper for us to be doing it internally or cheaper to pay somebody else to do it. My mindset on that is, if we can do it in 8 weeks, but they can do it in 2, that's a whole nother ballgame, and just a thing I think we need to be considering when we're doing that, if that's possible.
Well, the 2 spreadsheets I gave you last time showed the engineer's estimate. That was fully loaded with all of their markups and everything. The other estimate was our estimate that was fully loaded, including labor and the time it was going to take to complete the project. There was nothing left out of either one of those scenarios. Now, it may take us a month longer than the other guys, but our labor's loaded in there.
Okay.
Their labor's loaded in there.
But I'd put it this way, too.
And there's $200,000 worth of difference.
Yep, and I get you, and I get what you're saying, but what I'm getting at is, so say we're paying these guys 6 weeks to do this project. They're working, our town employees are working 6 weeks on this project, right? So that's 6 weeks they're not working on something else that could be benefiting the town or the community, right? So that's why I would like to see those to where you can really draw some analysis on it.
I'm not saying every year we would have the time to be able to devote to a project like that. This is one of those years when it's good to be able to utilize our people in a way that they might be standing idle.
I'm not trying to say we're not doing it or not doing a good job doing it. I'm just saying it's something we as a council, I believe, should be making sure we're covering every angle, is what I'm getting. I'll put it to you that way.
Yeah.
Does that sound better? Okay.
Okay. I'm with you.
Okay.
Anything else, Peter?
No, that's all
Any
I
other
got.
questions for Peter? Okay, if not, we're going to move on to new business. And this is our council committees. And one of the things that I would like the council to consider is, since we have an election coming up for now, everyone's been talked to on these committees, if we can just do a consensus that this will work for now, and then after the election, then you can change, then you can vote on the council committees, if that's amenable to everyone.
Can you also appoint someone temporarily to arrange the school foundation? Because Joe served on that and you do need another person on there.
Wasn't I on there?
Yes, you would stay.
Oh,
on
you
it.
just need the
another
second person? Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
This is
For what?
range.
Arrange
The school foundation,
Is that the tax?
yeah, where we're giving them part of the sales
There's
tax.
2 school board members.
Do we have a
2 town
volunteer?
members.
How often do you meet?
Quarterly, isn't it?
Once a quarter.
Once a quarter?
Where's it going to?
Maybe
Okay.
twice a year.
All right.
Okay, so
I'll do it if
if
nobody
we
else
can
wants
do
to.
the
I'll do it.
committees
You do?
I'll do it.
and the volunteer for the thing and just do that by consensus? Can we do that, Lisa? Okay, everyone's comfortable with that? Do I hear a consensus?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So we're done with that. The next thing we have is the discussion action. It's preliminary financial summary. So what I'd like to do is wait for the final, because Lisa has some stuff to finish up with it. Do that at the next meeting. If that's okay with everyone?
As long as that works for Lisa. Your end.
It looks like there's a few things that need to change yet, minor.
Yeah, so we'll just table that for the next meeting. We'll get the finals in. Okay, that's all I see. Is there anything else we need to bring to the attention of the council?
The rowdy worm. When we're at,
We already did that.
We did that.
We did them early because I did them before the 7:50. We did that before.
It's 10:45. Don't expect it.
Oh, Andy, we did that already.
Perfect, sounds good.
Okay, so motion to adjourn? Done. Okay.